Hello and welcome back to Sunny Magnolias. My name is Antavia, and as you can see, Octavia is not here with me yet again, and I'm really missing making videos with her, so you guys should comment below and tell her to make a video with me because I really do miss her. But she's in class right now, so that's why she's not here. And also because I'm doing a book review today on a book she still has yet to read. But anyways, the book that I'm going to be reviewing is Saba Tahir's An Ember in the Ashes. And I know this book is kind of old because it came out about maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, but I didn't read it until I think the beginning of January. And so I read it after my Christmas break because I had been really wanting to find something to read, and I was kind of in a reading slump. I was reading After You by Jojo Moyes, and so I had to stop reading that because I was reading it with a friend, and so we were trying to get on the same page, and so I kind of got in a slump, and so I was like, okay, let me try this book because I've been avoiding it for a while. Like, everyone had been doing book reviews. I had been seeing it all over Instagram, all over Twitter, and I was like, I'm not going to read this book, so there's no point in me buying it or even trying to read it. And so over break, I was trying to find a book, and I found An Ember in the Ashes, but I didn't start reading it until January. And so I started it, and from the very first page, I was in love. And it quickly got me out of my reading slump, which made me very excited. And so, anyways, let's get started. The first couple of minutes is going to be spoiler free, so anyways. But anyway, the summary of An Ember in the Ashes is about a girl named Leia, or Laia, depending on how you pronounce it. I say Leia. But her brother Darren gets taken away by these masks, and so what's really cool about this book, it's very almost magical in a sense, and you can kind of call it a dystopian, but it's not really. I have no idea what you would classify this as. Maybe fantasy? I have no idea. But anyways, I really enjoyed the way that she set up the characters and the setting of the story, and I felt that it was very cultural in a sense because, as you know, Saba Tahir, I believe, is Punjabi, and so I feel like a lot of that is very present from the very beginning because of the setting. I believe they're somewhere like close to the desert, and so it's really, really cool. But the character Leia, in the beginning of the book, her brother gets taken away by these masks, and the way that their system hierarchically is set up is there's the Empire. There's always an evil empire, but there's an empire, and there are masks, which are like these guards, but they're crazy, have no morality whatsoever, like the most evil people you can imagine in a book. Probably, unless you read a book with more evil people. But there's masks and auxiliaries, and then there's this woman named the Commandant who is over all of the masks. But anyways, her brother gets taken, and she has to go find him, which kind of is like almost every book where someone's sibling gets taken and they have to go find them. But her brother gets taken, and so the novel begins with her trying to find the resistance. And so usually if there's an empire, there's usually a resistance to try to take down the empire. So there's a resistance that's trying to take down the empire. So as she's going through this whole process of trying to join the resistance to get back her brother Darren, who's been taken by these evil masks, things happen, and glorious things, sad things, but wonderful things happen. And so the book, oh, is so good. But I read it in like a week, which is kind of slow, but I was trying to take it, you know, pretty slow. But her brother gets taken. She goes to find him. She ends up becoming a spy in Blackcliff, which is where the masks get trained to be evil and basically with no morals. But she goes to the Commandant's house, and she becomes a slave, although she's undercover technically, so she's a slave, and she's still trying to figure out where exactly her brother is because she has no idea. And so she starts working with these other two slaves while under the Commandant. And mind you, one really thing that's interesting about this book is although she is the Commandant's slave, every other slave before her has either committed suicide by jumping off of buildings, extremely tall buildings, or has been killed or tortured by the Commandant. And by tortured and then eventually killed by the Commandant. And so all of these things happen, and it's really, really interesting. Like, each page like draws you in. I really love Saba Tahir's writing style because it goes from perspective of one character to the perspective of another character. And so she ends up meeting this other character named Elias, and he also has a perspective in the book. So it's Leia or Leia, and then there's Elias. And so it's really interesting to see how the story unfolds, and then Elias and Leia's path actually begins to cross, and things happen with them, and still she's trying to find her brother, and all crap hits the fan. And so it's really, really good. And so, yeah, that happens. She's under the commandant. Elias is, which, I forgot. One interesting thing about Elias, like how I mentioned Blackcliff, evil people, no morals. Elias is a mask, but he's different. Although he's literally been in Blackcliff from like the age of maybe 9, 8. I could be wrong. Correct me if you remember. But he's been in Blackcliff ever since he was like adolescent age, pre-adolescent age, and he doesn't like being a mask. And the mask, the reason they're called masks is because they have to wear like this silver mask that like attaches itself to their face, and so it's like the metal is kind of alive. And so obviously after time it's kind of hard to take the mask off, but Elias is so against like what the masks believe in, what Blackcliff believes in, what the commandant believes in. He's almost kind of like a traitor in a sense, because he doesn't really like what the Empire is doing. They're oppressing almost everyone. Like no one has ability to do anything unless you are in the Empire, which means you kind of have like almost a sense of royalty because you have money and you have food and you have jobs and you live in these rich aristocracy families. And so it's very esteemed in a sense. And so he has been around this ever since like the age of 8, and so he doesn't really agree with it. But being a mask, masks are very emotionless. They don't share how they feel really with anyone. And so Elias's journey is very different from Elias, because Elias is trying to find her brother. He's the only family she has left. And so Elias is kind of familyless. He doesn't really have anyone. And so his journey is really about finding himself and not wanting to be a mask. But yeah, it's a really great book. I would totally suggest you read it. Like now, like go get the ebook or go buy it, the actual book, if you don't like ebooks, and you should go read it. And so now for the spoilery section. If you don't like spoilers, I suggest you stop this video. But before you stop this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So, peace out to those who don't like spoilers. But anyways, okay. There's so many things that happen in this book that made me want to scream. Oh my gosh, but okay, where do I start? I don't know. Okay, let's start with Elias and his whole like messed up family. How the commandant is actually his mom, and she threw him away to die, but he doesn't die and ends up coming to the place where she really doesn't want to see his face, and they like see each other all the time, and it's like the most horrible mother-son relationship to ever exist on planet Earth. But I don't even know how to explain it. But then, as you guys know, there's like this fight for the crown to be the next emperor, and so Elias has to fight for the crown, and he has to fight his friends. And although, like I mentioned before, Elias is basically familyless without, his grandfather and Helene and his friends. But what's really interesting is the way he still is familyless without, his grandfather and without Helene, because of the way the whole battle unfolds with the augurs and them having to literally turn against each other. And the whole while Leia is like on the sidelines watching his story, and he's like watching her story. And I know this review is kind of all over the place, but the book is amazing, and I love that Elias and Leia get out in the end. And I read A Torch Against the Night, which there would be a completely different review for that, but I love how Saba Tahir really took their stories and made them into one. Like, you were never confused, and the way she would write Leia, it would really go seamlessly into Elias's story. And so it was really interesting to see each perspective, and especially when they get to meet each other and how he feels about her and how she feels about him, and how they develop this trust with one another that they can't really trust anyone else at all in the Empire. And so there's just so much that happens with Leia, with Keenan, and the guy who knew her parents, and then with Elias and his mom, and all of the magicalness of the story, because I didn't even think there would be magic with like the djinn and all of this stuff. Like the way Sabra Tahir wrote this was just beautiful, although very, very grotesque at times with the fighting scenes. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a fighting scene, but it was very interesting how she would, the way that they had to turn against each other. Like there's this one scene where Elias and his friends have to fight Helene and her friends, and even though they're all friends, they literally have to be turned against each other to fight for the crown. And the way that he had to kill his friends was like the saddest thing I've ever had to read, really. And so it was one of the saddest things I've ever had to read. So that was really interesting, but I suggest you guys go read this book, An Ember in the Ashes by Sabra Tahir. It's really, really good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this book review. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and there will be more book reviews to come. And so thank you for coming back to our channel, Sunny Magnolias, Sunshines and Smiles. Bye.